what a bounce back at home for Kalani Sitake and the BYU Cougars. Tough loss, but you should just not be surprised that this BYU team, they're just so steady. They're just that they were going to bounce back. Maybe not to this degree as they just cruise and end up beating TCU 44-13. But they take everything in stride, win or loss, and they just keep rolling. That's exactly what they did here. Bear Bachmeier was great. They ended up scoring on the first 7 drives of the game. And then defensively, they got after Hoover pretty well. Just really limited him, didn't let him sit in the pocket and pick them apart.
4 sacks.
Never let him get in a rhythm. Exactly, 4 sacks. Just fantastic work all around. And it really, unfortunately, for someone maybe hoping for a final good game of the evening, didn't really provide that as it was not close. 44-13, like I said. Y'all's takeaways from this game?
This was expected, for me, not for all. I fully expected some kind of response like this. Maybe not the scoring margin of this, but like I've said this entire season, this is a team that has responded when they've needed to.
Except when you picked them to go under in the preseason. But you're good. Keep going.
Look, like Josh Pate says, preseason
trolling.
predictions mean nothing.
True.
You can throw those out the window.
He'd never seen Bear Bachmeier take a snap before.
Absolutely. I didn't know he was going to be the starter yet. But BYU responded. That especially with the way they start the game, when you score 24 straight points on your 4 starting drives, 27. Schubert, we got to keep going. They scored on their first 7 drives. That Bear Bachmeier is a baller is a takeaway for me from this game. The dude can play some football. He makes throws when he needs to. He uses his legs very, very well. Has a rushing touchdown in this game. He isn't the most talented thrower, but he puts the ball in the right spot at the right time, and that's kind of all that matters. Just a really, really impressive performance from them offensively. I talked about one of the things I talked about in the breakdown of the game was star receiver matchup, and they won that. Eric McAllister had 107 receiving yards, but Jordan Dwyer was held to 2 for 19, and then Chase Roberts and Parker Kingston were both great, 5 for 50 and 5 for 80. They were picking up big first downs, too, in this game, and so full credit to them. One of the things that was kind of a concern and why the spread was as close as it was, and people were potentially talking about this as of like, oh no, here goes BYU again, was TCU defensively had been incredible. For a Big 12 defense so far this year, their defense had been 35th in rush defense, meaning it would be another test for BYU and their rush offense, but they were able to find what they wanted there. That really wasn't an issue. And then on their offensive end, it had been 303 yards per game, top 10 in the country for Josh Hoover, and he couldn't get anything going in this game. My takeaway is I expected this. I'm really happy that this occurred, of course.
Yeah.
With Cincinnati losing to Arizona, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday, maybe it opens the door a little bit more. We still got to go win that game at Cincinnati. But that's the last test. And this kind of response just makes me feel good about, Lord willing, of course, if BYU makes the Big 12 championship game, I think they're going to have a good shot to win the rematch against Texas Tech.
I'll give them a shot. I don't know if I'll say good shot.
Good shot.
But just very, very impressive performance. I am sadly, it was already put to bed, but I had this TCU team winning the Big 12 in the preseason. The concern was the defense wasn't going to be good enough, and it really hasn't been good enough, coupled with some offensive line issues, and that has really ended that. But fantastic performance for BYU, and I would just like to apologize once and for all for a mistake that I will never do again, and that is not picking with my heart and my mind. I picked with my gut, I guess, because I picked with my mind, and that was I was trying to make up a game on JP. And so I ended up picking TCU to cover, even if I didn't really believe that. And that's just not I compromised my principles, simply put. So I apologize to BYU Nation.
Cougar Nation.
Cougar Nation, yeah. And I'm just mad at myself for that because I got it wrong, and that just...
Hey, it happens.
Yeah.
Sanders, did you pick Bama on mind or heart?
Mind.
I
thought Bama... Bama was going to cover.
Jury can be out on that. Do you have any takeaways from this
I
game,
do.
sir?
This is exactly what I wanted from BYU. I talked about after the Utah game. I said, congratulations. That's a huge win over a top 25 team. And kind of your first big win of the season. But last year, if you look at last year's schedule, they start 9-0.
Mm-hmm. Lose to Kansas.
And then after you beat Utah by 1 in Utah.
Yeah.
You've got a win over top 15 Kansas State, who didn't turn out to be top 15. But, like, you've had a really great season to that point. You lose to Kansas by 4, and then the next week you lose at Arizona State by 5, and you go from 9-0, and in the playoffs, I think they were top – I don't know if they're top 10, but, like, if you finish 11-1,
They were they got as high as 8, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so top 10 team, you're first in the Big 12, you're 6-0. The teams that end up making the Big 12 championship, I believe Arizona State had 2 Big 12 losses. I don't know if the other team did, but like you were in the driver's seat
Iowa State, they did.
for a spot there.
Yeah.
Iowa State and Arizona State both did. But you lose 2 straight in the second to last and third to last weeks of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I said after the Utah game, I said great win, but you have to go to Iowa State, who Iowa State has not played this back half of the season like they did the first half. But that could have still been a tough matchup. You got to go to Texas Tech. Then you got to play TCU. Then you got to go to Cincinnati. That is 4 games in a row where you could easily drop 2 games. They beat Iowa State. They do not handle Texas Tech, unfortunately, on the road. But then they handle TCU at home. So now you got 2 games left at Cincinnati and then UCF. But this is exactly what I want to see. I did not want BYU to have the exact same mistake they had last year. Really just stumbling at the finish line. And it's still, there's still games to be played, but a win after that loss to Texas Tech last year goes a long way to making me feel pretty confident that this is not going to finish the same way it did last year.
Agreed. 100%. I fully agree. Only other takeaway for me from this game is, man, I wish that he had actually connected with his brother and Tiger Bachmeier. He was trying to hit Tiger for much of the game. Tiger only has 1 catch, but Tiger almost had 2 touchdowns in this game. They just didn't quite get on the same page.
He's got UCF to do that.
No, he should do that next week against Cincinnati. That would be awesome. But
It
we'll
would.
see.
Game-winning
Bear
touchdown.
to Tiger in the Big 12 championship.
I
Book
forgot that their names are Bear and Tiger. And what's
It's
the
pretty
last?
fire.
Bachmeier.
Bear, Tiger, and then it's another normal name. Hank.
The oldest brother.
Yes.
Basketball player?
No, he
Football
played
player.
football player. He was at Boise State for
Okay.
a while. I think finished his career at Wake Forest. Taylon Green eventually took over the starting job from him.